I matured faster than other girls my age. At my 18th birthday party, my overprotective brother Cole asked his best friend to watch over me, but from the moment we met, the man's eyes burned with a raw desire. His gaze was a thorny vine that wrapped around me and wouldn't let go. After graduating from college, I became his senior executive assistant by day. He was my boss by night. He was the lover who claimed my body for 4 years. We carried on the secret affair. He molded me into the woman he desired, and I mistook his control for love. Then one day, his ex-fiancée Cassidy Hayes returned from Europe. Without a second thought, he left my bed in the middle of the night to pick her up from the airport. Humiliated and furious, I still followed him like some pathetic puppy, only to watch him tenderly kiss another woman on a park bench. He turned, saw me, and sneered. "This was never anything more than a game, Willow Ashton, and you look pathetic." The more tenderly he looked at her, the more cruelly he mocked me. That's when it hit me. He was right. None of this had ever meant a thing. So I lowered my head, sent a text to Cole accepting the arranged marriage with the Lancaster family, then looked up at the man with a smile more liberating than any I'd worn in 4 years. "Fine. We're done." It wasn't long before Cole Ashton called. Even over the phone, I could hear the relief in his voice. He assumed I had finally moved on from the man I'd loved for years. What he didn't know was that the man I was madly in love with was his best friend, Reese. After hanging up, I grabbed the resignation letter I had already prepared and headed to the HR department. However, the process stalled at the very last step. "Miss Ashton, because yours is a core position, an exit within the week requires the CEO's personal signature for approval," the HR director said, an apologetic look on her face. Of course. Reese. Even now, at the very end, I couldn't escape him. I clutched my phone, walked to the end of the empty hallway, and dialed the number I knew by heart. The phone rang for what felt like an eternity. Just as I thought it would go to voicemail, the call connected. But the voice that answered wasn't his deep timbre. It was a woman's, light and unfamiliar. "Hello? Looking for Reese," I managed. "He's in the shower." In the shower. The words were 1,000 poison needles lancing through my chest. Despite this, years of professional training kept my voice steady, almost detached. "Never mind. Thank you." I hung up before she could say another word. The dark screen reflected my pale, drawn face. Less than 2 minutes later, my phone buzzed violently. I stared at Reese's name on the screen for a few seconds, took a deep breath, and answered. "What is it?" His tone was all business, cold and distant. Just last night, the same man had been on top of me, whispering my name like a prayer. My knuckles were wide around the resignation letter. "Mr. Sterling, I have a personnel change document that requires your signature." He let out a low hum, then added as an afterthought, "Oh, right. Come by later and pack up your things. Cassidy is moving in. My place on the west side is empty. You can move in there." His tone was infuriatingly casual, a thin veil for his patronizing pity. "I promised Cole I'd take care of you. 4 years ago, he drunkenly pulled me into his bed and made me his mistress. 4 years later, to make room for the rightful lady of the house, he was offering me a new cage, cloaking it as a duty to his best friend. The sheer audacity of his kindness was laughable." "That won't be necessary, Mr. Sterling," I said, forcing a smile. "I'm an adult. I can take care of myself." Once he signed the letter and I completed the final handover, our absurd 4-year charade would be over for good. And me? I was getting married. Morning sunlight streamed into the hotel room as I opened my eyes. For the first time in years, I felt more clear-headed than I ever had waking up beside Reese. I called an Uber and returned to the ocean view penthouse I had inhabited for 4 years. The moment I stepped inside, however, I thought I was in the wrong house. The minimalist space that had once been ours was now drowning in opulent, unfamiliar decor. In a corner, all my personal belongings were piled up like trash, a heap of what I had once cherished. The out-of-print book of poetry Reese had given me lay desecrated, pages scattered, the imprint of a stiletto heel marring its cover beyond recognition. Reese was standing by the floor-to-ceiling window, sipping coffee. He turned at the sound, and sighed softly, "None of this is worth much. Just toss it. If you need anything, make a list. I'll have accounting expense it. Not worth much." My gaze fell on the shattered poetry book. Tucked inside was the first love note he had ever written me, the foolish proof of a future I once believed in. I picked up the broken cover and, under Reese's astonished gaze, tossed it into the nearby trash can along with the rest of the debris. "You're right, Mr. Sterling." I dusted off my hands and gave a faint smile. Things that aren't valuable should be thrown away when they get dirty or broken, including my foolish, misplaced feelings. I ignored the way his expression darkened, lowered my head, and pulled the resignation letter from my bag. "Mr. Sterling, this is my..." Before I could finish, his phone rang. In the quiet living room, Cassidy Hayes' voice came through crystal clear. "Reese, it's raining. Come pick me up." The gloom on his face vanished, replaced by urgent concern. Without a second glance at the document in my hand, he scribbled his name at the bottom. "Get a cab. Text me when you get back." He threw the words over his shoulder, grabbed his car keys, and rushed out. As Reese drove away, the drizzle turned into a downpour. The apartment was halfway up a hill in Queen and, making it impossible to hail a cab. I opened my umbrella and started the long walk down against the wind. My foot slipped on the wet pavement and I went down hard. A sharp, grinding pain shot up from my knee and elbow. Ignoring the sting, my first instinct was to clutch my bag. My signed resignation was inside. If it got wet, I'd have to see him again, and that was the last thing I wanted. Just then, a familiar black Bentley sped towards me. Instead of slowing, it accelerated, sending a wave of muddy water crashing over me. I was drenched from head to toe. Through the passenger window, I saw her, Cassidy, makeup flawless, sitting beside Reese. He was smiling tenderly at her, completely oblivious to the woman who looked like a drowned rat on the side of the road. I clenched my jaw as a salty taste filled my mouth. Rain or tears, I couldn't tell the difference. I held myself up from the cold, wet pavement. A fiery pain shot through my knee, but I straightened my spine and walked in the opposite direction of the car. On my final day, I was in the office finishing the handover. My desk was already cleared, but the last hour dragged on. My phone lit up, a message from Reese. "Black coffee, half sugar, with cinnamon." Technically, for this last hour, I was still his assistant. I had to see it through. I prepared the drink, took a deep breath, and knocked on his office door. The moment I entered, I froze. Cassidy was lying on the sofa, her head resting on Reese's lap as he gently massaged her temples. In the 4 years I was with him, whenever a late night at the office left my head throbbing, all he ever did was coldly toss me a bottle of ibuprofen. "Don't let it affect your work, Willow," was all he'd say. The pathetic fool I'd been had mistaken his coldness for professionalism, deluding myself in this clandestine affair. I walked past them, expressionless, and placed the cup on his desk. "Mr. Sterling, your coffee." I turned to leave, but Cassidy suddenly sat up. "Wait." Her gaze swept over me, critical and hostile. "You're Cole Ashton's sister?" Before I could answer, she slapped me hard. My ears rang as a burning sting blossomed on my cheek. Reese shot to his feet, startled. "Cassidy, what are you doing?" Her eyes welled with tears as she rounded on Reese, pointing an accusing finger at me while playing the perfect victim. "She's an Ashton. She could live like a princess, but she insists on being your assistant. Don't tell me she doesn't have designs on you. She's trying to take my place." The air went still. Reese's gaze flickered to my swollen cheek before he turned and gently pulled Cassidy into his arms, wiping away her tears. His voice was soft, laced with resignation and undisguised adoration. "Even if she does, it's one-sided. My heart only has room for you. She's just a good employee. That's all." A triumphant smirk flashed across Cassidy's face as she nestled into his arms, her voice a sweet coo. "Then fire her. I don't want to see her face again." Reese's brow furrowed, almost imperceptibly, a flicker of hesitation in his eyes. Seeing it, Cassidy, apparently unsatisfied, snatched the hot coffee from the desk. The next second, she shrieked, sending the entire cup of coffee flying at me with a theatrical flick of her wrist. "Ah, Reese, it's hot." The cup was so slippery. The scalding liquid splashed across my arm, the searing pain almost making me cry out. But Cassidy, who only caught a few drops on her fingertips, screamed as if the air would shatter as she clutched her reddened fingers. Reese, his face turned to stone, his cold gaze locked onto me, completely missing the angry red burn spreading across my bare arm. "Willow, you've been with me for 4 years and you can't even handle a simple task. Did you do this to Cassidy on purpose? Before I could explain, he had already buzzed his chief secretary. Miss Miller, Miss Ashton has made a grave error. Withhold her entire severance package and I want her mistake announced at next week's company meeting. Paige Miller walked in and froze, taking in the scene. She shot me an uneasy look before saying softly, "But Mr. Sterling, Miss Ashton has already resigned." The moment she finished, Cassidy gasped, cried out in pain, and collapsed limply into Reese's arms. "Reese, if you're so eager to protect your precious assistant, then I'll leave and I'll never come back." His pupils constricted. He ignored Paige completely, holding Cassidy tight. "Cassidy, don't, please." His glare was a shard of ice cutting right through me. "Willow, if there's a next time, you can crawl back to your family. I won't let you off, not even if Cole himself comes begging. Now get out." My burned arm throbbed and cold sweat slicked my temples. My heart had gone numb, and the physical pain was just a dull, distant echo. "Don't worry, Mr. Sterling. There won't be a next time." He clearly didn't expect that answer. For a moment, he was stunned. But without another word, he swept Cassidy into his arms. "Let's go. We're going to the private clinic." When his eyes swept over the blistering skin on my arm, his brow furrowed deeper. "You come too. I won't have anyone saying I mistreat my employees." "Worried about infection." I said nothing and followed. In the back of the car, my phone buzzed, a message from Reese. I was emotional, but I've already lost Cassidy once. I can't lose her again. "If you're upset, I'll make it up to you." I stared at the words, then at the man in the front seat fussing over Cassidy as if she were made of glass. The absurdity of it all made me want to laugh. Did he really think I was still the same girl who would come running at the crook of his finger without a second thought? I blocked his number. The next second, a friend request popped up. It was from my arranged marriage fiancé, Graham Lancaster. We'd met once, years ago. I took a slow breath and pressed accept. The private clinic smelled of antiseptic and expensive leather furniture. I sat in the waiting area while Reese personally escorted Cassidy into the examination room, his hand protectively placed at the small of her back. The nurse who approached me was kind, her eyes sympathetic as she noticed the angry red welt spreading across my forearm. "That looks painful," she said gently, guiding me to a treatment room down the hall, far from where Reese and Cassidy had disappeared. "Let's get you taken care of." As she carefully cleaned and dressed the burn, applying a cooling gel that temporarily numbed the worst of the pain, my phone buzzed again. Graham had replied. "Willow. It's been a long time. I heard from your brother that you've agreed to the arrangement. I want you to know, I don't believe in forcing anyone into anything. If you need time or if you want to talk before making any decisions, I'm here." His message was measured, respectful. Nothing like the possessive intensity I'd grown accustomed to with Reese. There was no demand for my immediate attention, no assumption that I owed him anything. I found myself typing back. "Thank you, Graham. I appreciate that. I think we should meet properly. Coffee tomorrow?" His response came quickly. "Tomorrow works. I'll send you the address. Take care of yourself, Willow." The nurse finished wrapping my arm in sterile gauze and gave me a prescription for pain medication and antibacterial ointment. "Keep it clean and dry. Come back in 3 days so we can check on the healing." I thanked her and stood, ready to leave, when Reese appeared in the doorway. His eyes immediately went to my bandaged arm, and something flickered in his expression. Was it guilt? Concern? I couldn't tell anymore, and truthfully, I didn't care. "The doctor said Cassidy just needs rest," he said stiffly. "I'm taking her home." "That's good to hear," I replied, my voice professionally neutral. "If you'll excuse me, Mr. Sterling, I need to fill this prescription." I moved past him, but his hand shot out, fingers wrapping around my uninjured wrist. The touch that once would have sent electricity through my entire body now felt like nothing more than an unwelcome intrusion. "Willow, wait." I stopped but didn't turn around. "Is there something else you need, Mr. Sterling?" "Don't." He paused, seeming to struggle with his words. "Don't be like this." A bitter laugh escaped me before I could stop it. I finally turned to face him, and for the first time in 4 years, I looked at Reese Sterling without the rose-colored glasses of desperate, foolish love. I saw him clearly, a man who had never truly seen me as anything more than a convenient distraction, a placeholder until his real love returned. Like what, exactly? Professional? Distant? Isn't that what you've always wanted from me during business hours? I gently pulled my wrist from his grasp. Or did you only want me distant when it was convenient for you? His jaw tightened. You know it's not like that. Do I? I tilted my head, studying him as if he were a stranger. What I know, Mr. Sterling, is that you made your choice the moment Cassidy came back. And now I'm making mine. Enjoy your evening. I walked away and didn't look back. The coffee shop Graham had chosen was in a quiet neighborhood in Capitol Hill, far from the corporate towers where Reese's influence loomed. It was the kind of place that smelled like fresh pastries and old books, with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls, warm, unpretentious, real. Graham Lancaster was already there when I arrived, seated by the window with 2 cups of coffee in front of him. He stood as I approached, and I was struck again by how different he was from Reese. Where Reese was all sharp edges and controlled intensity, Graham had an easier presence, tall and well-built, yes, but with kind eyes and a genuine smile that reached them. Willow, he greeted, pulling out a chair for me. I wasn't sure what you liked, so I got you a vanilla latte. But we can get you something else if you prefer. Vanilla latte is perfect, I said, settling into the chair. The simple thoughtfulness of the gesture, remembering that I'd ordered that at a family dinner years ago, struck me more than it probably should have. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, both sipping our drinks. Graham didn't rush to fill the quiet with empty small talk, and I appreciated that more than he could know. I want to be honest with you, I finally said, setting down my cup. This arrangement, I'm not agreeing to it for the right reasons. I'm running from something, someone. And that's not fair to you. Graham considered this, his expression thoughtful rather than offended. Your brother mentioned you'd been working for Sterling Industries. I can put 2 and 2 together, Willow. Seattle's business community isn't that large. Heat crept up my neck. I see. I'm not judging you, he continued quietly. We've all made choices we regret, invested ourselves in people who didn't deserve it. What matters is what you do next. He leaned forward slightly, his gaze steady and sincere. Here's what I propose. We spend time together, properly. No pressure, no expectations beyond getting to know each other as real people, not just names on a contract our families drew up. If at any point you feel this isn't right, you're free to walk away. And if I feel the same, I'll do the same. The knot in my chest loosened slightly. You'd really do that? Your family. My family wants me happy, Graham interrupted gently. And I happen to believe that happiness doesn't come from forcing connections that aren't there. But Willow, I'll be honest too. I've known who you were since that dinner 5 years ago. You were different from the other society daughters, genuine, passionate about your work, kind to the waitstaff. I was disappointed when I heard you'd taken a position at Sterling Industries instead of joining your family's business, but I understood. You wanted to make your own way. I stared at him, genuinely surprised. You remembered all that? I remember thinking that if arranged marriages had to exist, being arranged to you wouldn't be the worst fate. A self-deprecating smile tugged at his lips. Though I'm sure that's not the most romantic thing you've ever heard. Despite everything, I laughed, a real laugh that felt foreign after so many months of manufactured smiles. You'd be surprised. Romance has been in short supply in my life lately. Then let me try to change that, Graham said, extending his hand across the table. Starting fresh. Hi, I'm Graham Lancaster. I run the International Acquisitions Division for Lancaster Holdings. I like old jazz music, terrible action movies, and I make excellent pancakes. What about you? I took his hand, feeling the warmth of his palm against mine, steady, honest, safe. I'm Willow Ashton. I just quit my job as an executive assistant. I like poetry, rainy Sundays, and I'm apparently terrible at choosing who to trust. But I'm working on that last part. Sounds like we both have room for improvement, Graham said with a grin. Lucky for us, we've got time. Over the next 3 weeks, Graham and I fell into an easy rhythm. He'd text me good morning without fail, never demanding, never possessive, just a simple hope you have a great day with a coffee cup emoji. We met for lunches, dinners, walks around Green Lake. He introduced me to his favorite bookshop in Fremont, and I took him to the art gallery in Pioneer Square where I'd spent countless Saturday afternoons during college. With Graham, I wasn't performing. I wasn't calculating my words to avoid triggering jealousy or second-guessing every gesture. I was simply myself. And shockingly, that seemed to be enough for him. "You smile more now," he observed one evening as we walked along the waterfront, the setting sun painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. "It's nice to see." I glanced at him, startled. "Do I? When I first met you for coffee, you looked like you were carrying the weight of the world. Now." He shrugged, his expression soft. "You look lighter. Like you're remembering how to breathe." He wasn't wrong. Away from Reese's orbit, away from the constant anxiety of wondering when he'd call, whether he'd need me, if I'd said or done something to displease him, I was rediscovering parts of myself I'd buried years ago. But the universe, it seemed, wasn't done with Reese Sterling and me. I was leaving Graham's car after dinner one Friday evening when I spotted him, Reese, standing outside my apartment building, hands shoved in his pockets, looking uncharacteristically disheveled. His tie was loosened, his usually immaculate hair mussed as if he'd been running his hands through it repeatedly. Graham noticed him too. "Is that?" "My former boss," I said quietly. "You should go, Graham. I'll handle this." Graham's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Call me if you need anything." "I mean it, Willow. Anything." I squeezed his hand gratefully before stepping out of the car. As Graham drove away, I approached Reese with measured steps, my heart surprisingly steady. "Mr. Sterling," I said coolly. "This is unexpected. What can I do for you?" He looked up, and I was shocked to see genuine distress in his eyes, red-rimmed, exhausted. "You blocked my number." "Yes, I did." "Why?" The question came out raw, almost desperate. I almost laughed at the absurdity. "Why?" "Reese, you made it abundantly clear that I was nothing more than a convenience to you. What possible reason would I have to maintain contact?" "That's not," he stopped, frustration clear on his face. "Willow, I need to talk to you. We're talking now. Not like this. Please, can we go somewhere private?" Every instinct screamed at me to refuse, to walk away and never look back. But there was something in his expression, a crack in the impenetrable armor he always wore, that made me hesitate. "You have 15 minutes, I said finally. "There's a coffee shop around the corner." The coffee shop was nearly empty at this hour. We sat across from each other, and for the first time in our 4-year entanglement, the silence between us was uncomfortable for him, not me. "Cassidy and I broke up," he finally said. I kept my expression neutral, even as surprise flickered through me. "I'm sorry to hear that." "Are you?" His eyes searched mine, looking for something I was no longer willing to give. "I'm sorry that you're in pain," I clarified. "But if you're here hoping I'll fill the void she left, you're going to be disappointed. That's not why I'm here." He leaned forward, intensity radiating from him. "I'm here because I've been a complete fool, Willow. These past few weeks without you, I can't eat, can't sleep, can't focus. Everything reminds me of you. The coffee in the morning, the way you organized my schedule, the sound of your laugh when you thought I wasn't listening." "Stop." I held up my hand, cutting him off. "Just stop, Reese. You don't get to do this." "Do what?" "Realize my value only after I'm gone. Romanticize what we had now that it's over." I leaned back, crossing my arms. "What happened with Cassidy? Did she not live up to the fantasy you'd built in your head?" His silence was answer enough. "Let me guess," I continued, my voice sharp with years of suppressed anger finally finding its release. "She wasn't content to be the doting girlfriend. She had her own opinions, her own life, her own demands. She didn't mold herself to fit your needs the way I did. She didn't make herself small so you could feel big. Willow. I loved you, Reese. God help me, I loved you with everything I had. And you took that love and twisted it into something that served you while giving me nothing but scraps in return." My voice cracked, but I pushed on. "You kept me hidden like a shameful secret. You never introduced me to your friends as anything more than your assistant. You never took me anywhere Cassidy might be. You never even considered that I might deserve more than stolen hours and empty promises." "I was protecting you," he said desperately. "Cole is my best friend. If he knew." "Protecting me?" A bitter laugh escaped. "You were protecting yourself, Reese. From having to choose, from having to acknowledge that what we had was real and messy and complicated. It was easier to keep me compartmentalized, to pretend I was just convenient, than to actually examine your own feelings. He flinched as if I'd struck him. You're right. About all of it. I was a coward. But Willow, I'm here now, laying it all out. I love you. I think I've loved you for longer than I'm willing to admit, and I was too stupid and too scared to recognize it. 4 years ago, those words would have meant everything. They would have been the validation I desperately sought, the proof that I wasn't crazy for believing we had something real. Now, they just made me tired. Love isn't just a feeling, Reese. It's action. It's showing up, making hard choices, putting the other person first sometimes. I met his gaze steadily. You had 4 years to love me properly, and you didn't. And now that I've finally chosen myself, you want me back? That's not love. That's ego. So that's it? His voice turned hard, defensive. You're just done? What about everything we shared, everything we meant to each other? What we shared was imbalanced and unhealthy. And what we meant to each other? I shook my head sadly. I meant security and convenience to you. You meant everything to me. Those aren't the foundations of love, Reese. Those are the foundations of pain. I stood, gathering my bag. I hope you find what you're looking for. I really do. But it's not me. Not anymore. Is it him? Reese stood abruptly, knocking his chair back. That Lancaster guy? I saw you with him. Is that who you're choosing? I'm choosing myself, I corrected firmly. For the first time in 4 years, I'm choosing what makes me happy, what gives me peace, what helps me grow. If Graham is part of that, it's none of your business. Cole will never approve of him, Reese said, a last desperate attempt to regain control. I smiled, sad but genuine. Cole approved of you, and look how that turned out. I think I'll trust my own judgment from now on. I walked out of the coffee shop without looking back. Behind me, I heard Reese call my name once, twice, but I kept walking. Each step felt like shedding weight, like emerging from underwater and finally taking a full breath. My phone buzzed. Graham's name lit up the screen. You okay? His text read. I typed back quickly. Better than okay. Want to get pancakes tomorrow morning? I hear you make excellent ones. His response made me smile. It's a date. I'll show you my secret technique. 3 months later, I stood in the Lancaster family's estate garden, surrounded by white roses and fairy lights strung between the trees. It wasn't a wedding, not yet. Tonight was the official engagement party, a celebration that Graham had insisted we could call off at any point if I wasn't ready. But as I looked around at the faces of our friends and family, at Cole beaming with genuine happiness for me, he and Graham had hit it off immediately over their shared love of sailing, at Graham's mother fussing over the catering with the same warmth she'd shown me since the day we were reintroduced, I felt ready. More than ready. You look beautiful, Graham said, appearing at my elbow with 2 champagne flutes. He handed me one, his eyes warm with admiration. And happy. That's the best part. I am happy, I said, and meant it. Thank you for being patient with me, for giving me space to heal. Thank you for taking a chance on us, he countered, clinking his glass gently against mine. On me. Willow. Cole's voice carried across the garden. Come here, there's someone who wants to congratulate you. I excused myself from Graham and made my way to where Cole stood with a small group. My steps faltered when I saw who was with him. Reese Sterling stood there, looking uncomfortable in his formal wear, a polite smile fixed on his face that didn't reach his eyes. Reese was in town for business, Cole explained, oblivious to the sudden tension. I insisted he stop by. It's not every day my little sister gets engaged. Congratulations, Willow, Reese said stiffly. Lancaster is a lucky man. Thank you, I replied with genuine grace. Seeing him now, I felt nothing but a distant echo of what used to be, like remembering a dream that once seemed vivid but had faded with the morning light. I heard Sterling Industries landed the Hoffman account, I added, making polite conversation. That's impressive. Congratulations to you as well. Something in his expression shifted, surprise, perhaps, that I'd kept up with his business dealings. You've been following the news? Of course. Just because I no longer work there doesn't mean I'm not interested in the industry. I smiled. I'm actually starting my own consulting firm. Graham's been helping me with the business plan. Your own firm? Now Reese looked genuinely shocked. That's great, Willow. Really great. An awkward pause settled between us until Cole, sensing something off, made an excuse about checking on the caterers and dragged Reese away with him. I watched them go, feeling lighter than air. There was no anger anymore, no bitterness. Reese Sterling was simply a chapter that had closed, one that had taught me valuable lessons about self-worth and the difference between loving someone and losing yourself in them. Everything all right? Graham appeared at my side again, his hand finding mine naturally. Everything's perfect, I assured him, squeezing his fingers. Actually, there's something I want to tell you. Oh? He looked curious but not worried. I love you, I said simply. It was the first time I'd said those words to him, and they felt completely different than they ever had with Reese. They felt like a gift I was giving freely, not a desperate plea for validation. I love you for being patient, for being kind, for making me laugh. For seeing me, really seeing me, and liking what you see. Graham's entire face lit up. Willow Ashton, I have been waiting 3 months to hear you say that. He set down both our champagne glasses and cupped my face in his hands. I love you too. So much. And I promise you, I will never make you doubt it. He kissed me then, gentle and sweet, and around us, our guests erupted into applause and cheerful whooping. When we broke apart, I was laughing, my cheeks warm with happiness and champagne and the pure joy of being cherished. From across the garden, I caught Cole's eye. He was grinning like an idiot, giving me an enthusiastic thumbs up. Beside him, Reese stood with an unreadable expression, but I didn't let my gaze linger. That part of my life was over. This, the laughter, the love, the future stretching bright and unwritten before me, this was just beginning. 6 months after the engagement party, my consulting firm had landed its third major client. What had started as a tentative venture, born from Graham's encouragement and my years of experience at Sterling Industries, had blossomed into something I was genuinely proud of. I specialized in operational efficiency and executive support systems, helping companies restructure their administrative divisions. The irony wasn't lost on me, I was now teaching other companies how to value and utilize their assistants properly, something Reese had never learned to do. Willow, you have a delivery, my assistant, Marcus, announced, poking his head into my office. He was a recent college graduate I'd hired specifically because he reminded me of myself at that age, eager, brilliant, underestimated. Another congratulations bouquet? I asked with a smile. Graham's family had been overwhelmingly supportive of my business launch. Not exactly. Marcus entered carrying an envelope, fine linen paper with my name written in familiar handwriting. My smile faded. I'd know that handwriting anywhere, I'd seen it on 4 years' worth of notes, memos, and the occasional rare personal message. Thank you, Marcus. That'll be all. When he left, I sat staring at the envelope for a long moment before finally opening it. Inside was a single card and a check that made my breath catch. The check was for the exact amount of the severance package Reese had withheld, plus interest, plus a substantial additional sum labeled back compensation for executive-level work. The card read, Willow. I've spent the past months in therapy, trying to understand why I sabotaged the best thing that ever happened to me. My therapist asked me to list all the ways you contributed to my success at Sterling Industries. The list took 3 sessions to complete. You deserved to be credited as a partner, not hidden as an assistant. You deserved equity, recognition, respect. Instead, I gave you scraps and convinced both of us it was enough. This check doesn't fix what I broke. Nothing can. But it's a start at acknowledging your true value, both professional and personal. I've stepped back from day-to-day operations at Sterling Industries. I'm working on myself, trying to become someone worthy of the trust people place in me. It's harder than closing any business deal I've ever done. I'm happy you found someone who sees your worth from the start. You deserve that and more. I hope you can forgive me someday, but I understand if you can't. With genuine remorse, Reese. I read the note twice, then set it down carefully on my desk. The anger I might have felt months ago didn't surface. Instead, I felt something closer to peaceful closure. I took a photo of the check and texted it to Graham with the caption, "You'll never believe what just arrived." His response came quickly, "Reese finally grew a conscience?" Better late than never, I suppose. What are you going to do with it? I thought for a moment, then typed back, donate the extra compensation to a scholarship fund for young women pursuing business degrees. Cash the rest because I earned every penny and more. Use it to expand the office space. We're going to need it. Graham sent back a heart emoji and, that's my girl. Dinner tonight to celebrate? Absolutely. Your place? I want those famous pancakes you promised. It's 3 p.m., Willow. Breakfast for dinner. Don't question my methods, Lancaster. His reply made me laugh out loud. Yes, ma'am. I live to serve. I set down my phone and picked up Reese's note one last time. Then, with careful deliberation, I filed it away in my desk drawer, not forgotten, but not given power over my present either. Marcus buzzed in again. Mrs. Chen from Apex Solutions is online too. She wants to discuss expanding her contract to include 3 more divisions. Excellent. Put her through. As I picked up the phone, shifting seamlessly into professional mode, I caught my reflection in the window. The woman looking back at me was competent, successful, genuinely happy. She bore little resemblance to the girl who had once waited by the phone for a man who would never prioritize her. That girl had grown into someone so much better. 1 year later. The Seattle Times business section featured a photo of me cutting the ribbon at my firm's new downtown location. The headline read, Ashton Consulting doubles revenue in first year, proves assistant track can lead to executive success. Graham had the article framed and hung it in our home office, the one in the penthouse we'd bought together, our names both on the deed. I was reading the physical paper over breakfast, Graham's pancakes, of course, when my phone rang. Cole's name flashed on the screen. Did you see the article? He asked without preamble, his voice bursting with pride. Currently reading it over breakfast. I'm sending it to everyone I know. That's my sister, the business mogul. I laughed. Hardly a mogul, Cole. We're still a small firm. A small firm that just poached 3 of Sterling Industries' best clients, he countered. Speaking of which, I had drinks with Reese last night. My hand stilled on my coffee cup. Oh? He's different, Will. Really different. Went to therapy, stepped back from the company, even started volunteering at some youth mentorship program. He asked about you, if you were happy. What did you tell him? The truth. That you're thriving. That Graham worships the ground you walk on, as he should. That you've built something amazing. Cole paused. He seemed genuinely happy for you. Sad, but happy. I processed this information quietly. That's good. I hope he finds his peace. You really mean that, don't you? Cole sounded surprised. I do. What we had was toxic, but it taught me what I don't want, which helped me recognize what I do want when I found it with Graham. In a weird way, I'm grateful for how it ended. It forced me to choose myself. You always were the wise one in the family, Cole said affectionately. Listen, I have to run, but Mom wants to know if you and Graham are coming to the summer house next month. We'll be there. Graham's already planning to challenge Dad to their sailing rematch. After we hung up, I sat for a moment in the morning quiet. Graham was in the shower, getting ready for his own workday. In a few hours, I'd head to the office where Marcus and our growing team would be waiting. Tonight, we'd have dinner with friends, maybe catch a movie, come home to this space we'd built together. It was beautifully, wonderfully ordinary. And it was everything I'd ever wanted. Graham emerged from the bedroom, still adjusting his tie. Who was on the phone? Cole. He saw the article. Of course he did. He's probably already ordered 100 copies. Graham came up behind me, dropping a kiss on top of my head. How are you feeling? Big day ahead. Great, I said honestly, tilting my head back to smile at him. Really great. Good. He squeezed my shoulders gently. Because you deserve to feel great every single day, Willow Ashton. Soon to be Willow Lancaster, if you haven't changed your mind. I turned in my chair to face him fully, taking his hand. Not even a little bit. October wedding, remember? I've already got the dress. I can't wait to see you in it, he said softly, his eyes full of the steady, reliable love I'd learned to trust. I can't wait to marry you and spend the rest of my life proving that you made the right choice. You already have, I assured him. Every single day, you already have. As Graham left for work and I prepared for my own day, I paused at the window overlooking downtown Seattle. Somewhere in this city, Reese Sterling was working on becoming a better man. Somewhere, Cassidy Hayes was living her own life, free from the complicated web we'd all tangled ourselves in. And here I was, successful, loved, whole. The girl who had once believed she needed to make herself smaller to be loved had grown into a woman who knew her own worth. The assistant who had been treated as disposable had become the CEO of her own destiny. It had taken heartbreak to get here, yes. It had taken pain and growth and the courage to walk away from what was familiar into what was unknown. But standing here now, looking out at the city with my future bright and unwritten before me, I wouldn't change a single step of the journey. I was finally, completely, beautifully free. And that was the most perfect ending of all.